Alone at night, 2 a.m. at home, a single mom faces a thief. Please subscribe our channel. Have you ever jolted awake in the dead of night, heart pounding, certain you heard something that shouldn't be there? Stay with me until the end to discover how one mother's worst nightmare became the catalyst for extraordinary change, and if her courage in the face of danger moves you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of ordinary people finding strength they never knew they had. The sound of breaking glass shattered the silence of Jessica Morgan's home at exactly 2:17 a.m. Her eyes flew open in the darkness, her body instantly rigid with fear. For a moment, she told herself it was just a dream, until she heard the unmistakable creak of the back door swinging open. Jessica's throat tightened as reality crashed down around her. She was alone with her 2 children, Lily, age 8, and Max, just 5, in their modest 2-bedroom home on the outskirts of town. Her ex-husband had walked out 14 months ago, leaving behind nothing but empty promises and mounting bills. The baseball bat she kept beside her bed suddenly felt inadequate against the terror creeping through her home. 3 weeks earlier, there had been a string of break-ins in neighboring communities. Jessica had double-checked the locks each night, but on this particular evening, exhaustion had gotten the better of her. After working a double shift at the diner, helping Lily with her science project, and finally getting Max to sleep after a nightmare, she'd collapsed into bed without her usual security routine. Now, as she heard footsteps moving through her kitchen, Jessica's mind raced through her options. Her phone lay charging on the dresser across the room, too far to reach without making noise. The children's rooms were just down the hall from hers, Lily's decorated with butterfly stickers on the door, Max's with superhero decals he'd placed there himself, proudly proclaiming he was making the house prettier, mommy. Jessica slid silently from beneath her covers, her bare feet touching the cold wooden floor. The moonlight filtering through her curtains cast long shadows across the room as she crept toward her closet, where she kept a flashlight that could double as a weapon if needed. Her hands trembled as she reached for it, memories flashing through her mind, Lily losing her first tooth last month, Max's contagious giggle during their pillow fight yesterday, the field trip permission slip still needing her signature on the kitchen counter. The kitchen. Where the intruder now stood. Jessica had always considered herself ordinary, a 32-year-old single mother working 2 jobs to make ends meet, falling asleep most nights before finishing the chapter in whatever novel served as her small escape. There was nothing remarkable about her life except for the extraordinary love she felt for her children. Yet in this moment, with danger lurking just rooms away from those she would die to protect, Jessica felt something fierce and primal awaken within her. The floorboard outside her bedroom creaked. Jessica froze, flashlight clutched in her white-knuckled grip. The footsteps had moved from the kitchen into the hallway that led to her children's rooms. Without conscious thought, she positioned herself between her bedroom door and the path to the children, a human barrier against whatever threat approached. The doorknob turned slowly, the hinges protesting softly as her bedroom door swung open. In the dim moonlight, Jessica could make out a tall figure, face obscured by a dark hood. For 3 heartbeats, they stared at each other, predator and prey in a midnight standoff. "Please," Jessica whispered, her voice steadier than she felt. "My children are sleeping. Take whatever you want, but please don't hurt us." The figure paused, head tilting slightly as if surprised to find someone awake. "Where's your purse?" The voice was male, rough with tension. "In the kitchen, on the counter," Jessica replied, her mind calculating the distance between this stranger and her children's rooms. "My wallet's inside. There's not much cash, but you can take the cards." The man shifted his weight, and Jessica caught the glint of something metallic in his hand. A knife. Her stomach dropped, but she maintained her position, flashlight raised like a shield. "Move," he ordered, gesturing toward the door with the knife. Jessica stepped forward cautiously, every maternal instinct screaming at her not to lead this threat closer to her children. As they moved into the hallway, she noticed Lily's door was slightly ajar. Her daughter sometimes got up for water during the night. Terror seized Jessica's heart at the thought that Lily might wake and investigate the voices. In the kitchen, harsh fluorescent light blinded Jessica momentarily as the intruder flipped the switch. She blinked rapidly, taking in the man before her, younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-20s, with hollow cheeks and darting eyes that spoke of desperation rather than malice. "Just take what you need and go," Jessica said, nodding toward her purse on the counter. "Please." The young man grabbed her purse, emptying its contents onto the counter with one hand while keeping the knife pointed at her with the other. As he rifled through her wallet, Jessica noticed his hands were shaking almost as badly as hers. $43, he spat, disappointment and anger flashing across his face. "That's it? It's all I have until payday," Jessica replied truthfully. "I'm a single mom. We don't have much." Something shifted in the man's expression, recognition, perhaps, or a flicker of shame. His eyes darted to the refrigerator, covered with Lily's artwork and Max's school photos, then back to Jessica. "The TV then," he muttered. "Jewelry. Something. Mommy?" The small voice from the hallway entrance froze them both. Lily stood there in her unicorn pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes, her long brown hair tangled around her shoulders. "Go back to your room, sweetie," Jessica said, fighting to keep her voice calm while her heart threatened to burst from her chest. The intruder's knife hand twitched, and Jessica instinctively moved to place herself between him and her daughter. "She's just a child," she whispered fiercely. "Please." What happened next would replay in Jessica's mind for years to come. The young man looked at Lily, then at Jessica, and something in his face crumbled. The knife lowered slightly. "Is he a bad man, Mommy?" Lily asked, her voice small but clear in the tense kitchen. Before Jessica could answer, the intruder spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "Yeah, kid. I'm a bad man tonight." He set the knife on the counter, pushing it away with his fingertips. "But I don't hurt children." Jessica didn't dare move, didn't dare believe this sudden shift. "Lily, go back to your room and close the door." "But..." "Now, Lily." Jessica had never used that tone with her daughter before, and Lily's eyes widened before she retreated down the hallway. Alone again with the intruder, Jessica watched as he sank into one of her kitchen chairs, head in his hands. "I have a little sister her age," he said quietly. "Living with my mom across town." Jessica remained standing, poised to run or fight if needed. "Why are you doing this?" The young man laughed bitterly. "Lost my job 6 months ago when the factory closed. Been looking everywhere. Got evicted last week. Mom and my sister can barely feed themselves, so I can't go there." He gestured vaguely at the knife. "Never done anything like this before. Thought it would be easier, you know. Empty house, grab some stuff, pawn it, eat for another week." Jessica knew she should feel nothing but fear and anger toward this man who had violated her home, threatened her with a knife, terrified her child. Yet something in his defeated posture reminded her of herself 14 months ago, sitting at this very table after her husband left, wondering how she would possibly survive. "There's leftover spaghetti in the fridge," she heard herself say. "If you're hungry." He looked up, confusion written across his face. "What? You said you needed to eat. There's food. And then you need to leave, and never come back here. Why would you?" "Because my children are watching everything I do," Jessica said firmly. "And I want them to know that even when we're afraid, we can still be human." The next 30 minutes unfolded in a surreal tableau, the intruder eating reheated spaghetti at her kitchen table while Jessica stood by the hallway, ready to rush to her children if needed. He told her his name was Ryan, that he'd worked at the manufacturing plant for 3 years before the layoffs, that his father had died when he was 15, leaving him to help his mother raise his sister. "This isn't the answer," Jessica told him as he finished eating. "Breaking into homes, scaring families. There are other ways. Easy to say when you've got a roof over your head, Ryan replied, though the edge had gone from his voice. Nothing about my life is easy, Jessica countered. I work 2 jobs. I skip meals so my kids can eat. I lie awake at night wondering how I'll pay next month's rent. But I don't terrorize others because of it. Ryan was silent for a long moment. I'm sorry, he finally said, the words seeming to surprise even him. I didn't. I wasn't thinking about the people. Just the stuff. There's a shelter downtown, Jessica said. And the community center has job listings. My friend Carol works there, tell her Jessica sent you. Why are you helping me? Ryan asked, genuine bewilderment in his voice. Jessica thought about this. Because tomorrow, I have to explain to my daughter what happened tonight. And I'd rather tell her a story about someone who made a mistake and found a better path than about someone who was just a bad man. After Ryan left, without the knife, without her money, with only a scrap of paper bearing Carol's name and the address of the community center, Jessica double-checked every lock, then sat outside her children's rooms until dawn broke, too wired with adrenaline to sleep. The next morning, she reported the break-in to the police, describing the incident but finding herself unable to provide a detailed description of the intruder. It was dark, she explained to the skeptical officer. I was focused on protecting my children. 2 weeks passed. Jessica installed a security system she could barely afford, jumped at every unexpected sound, and slept with the baseball bat within arm's reach. She began taking self-defense classes at the community center, determined never to feel so vulnerable again. It was during one of these classes that Carol, her friend who worked at the center's front desk, approached her. The strangest thing happened, Carol said. A young man came in asking about job listings. Said you sent him. Jessica's heart skipped a beat. Did he find anything? Actually, yes. Mr. Peterson at the hardware store needed help. The guy started last week. Carol tilted her head curiously. How do you know him? We met under unusual circumstances, Jessica replied carefully. Life continued. Spring turned to summer. Lily finished 2nd grade with honors in reading. Max started t-ball and proved to have a surprisingly good arm for a 5-year-old. Jessica was promoted to manager at the diner, allowing her to drop her second job and spend more evenings at home with her children. One Saturday morning in July, Jessica took the kids to the hardware store for supplies to fix their leaky bathroom faucet. As they wandered the plumbing aisle, a familiar voice asked, "Can I help you find something?" Ryan stood before them in a store uniform, a name tag pinned to his chest. He looked healthier, less gaunt, more rested, though his eyes still widened with recognition and something like shame when he saw Jessica. We need a new washer for our faucet, Lily announced before Jessica could speak. It goes drip 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 all night and keeps mommy awake. Ryan's eyes never left Jessica's as he replied, I think I can help with that. While he helped them find the correct part, explaining to an interested Lily how faucets worked, Jessica noticed the changes in him, the steady hands, the clear eyes, the careful way he spoke to her daughter. As they prepared to leave, Ryan handed Jessica the receipt. Written on the back were the words, "Thank you for seeing a person, not just a bad choice. I'm making better ones now." 3 months later, when the hardware store expanded to include a home repair service, Ryan became one of their first technicians. Jessica's bathroom sink was his first official service call, a gesture Mr. Peterson arranged as a surprise for one of his favorite customers. Your sink should be good as new now, Ryan told her as he packed up his tools. Max watched in fascination, peppering him with questions about each tool that Ryan answered with patient detail. Thank you, Jessica said, meaning far more than the repair. I've been wanting to tell you, Ryan said quietly while Max was distracted by the toolbox. I'm taking night classes. Getting my GED, then maybe trade school. And I'm helping my mom with my sister's school expenses now. I'm glad, Jessica replied simply. That night, Ryan continued, his voice low, "when you could have just seen a criminal, you saw someone who was lost." No one had looked at me like that in a long time, like I could be better than my worst moment. Jessica thought about the baseball bat she no longer kept by her bed, about the self-defense classes that had given her confidence and new friends, about the community watch program she'd helped organize on her street. "Sometimes our worst moments lead us to our best selves," she told him. "If we're brave enough to learn from them." A year after the break-in, Jessica's neighborhood held a block party to celebrate a full 12 months without a single home invasion. The community watch program had proven remarkably effective. As families gathered in the cul-de-sac, sharing potluck dishes and stories, Jessica found herself recounting a carefully edited version of that night to her neighbor Mrs. Abernathy. "Weren't you terrified?" Mrs. Abernathy asked, wide-eyed. "Of course," Jessica admitted. "But I also realized something important that night. Fear can paralyze us, or it can transform us. I chose transformation." As the sun set on the gathering, Jessica watched Lily and Max playing tag with the other neighborhood children, their laughter carrying on the evening breeze. She thought about the unlikely chain of events that had led her here, from a terrifying confrontation to a stronger community, from victimhood to empowerment. Ryan had been invited to the block party too, as the neighborhood's trusted handyman. Jessica watched as he helped Mr. Wilson set up the grill, his easy conversation and reliable presence making it impossible for anyone to imagine him as the desperate young man who had once broken into homes. Later, as the stars appeared overhead and neighbors lingered over dessert, Ryan approached Jessica with 2 cups of lemonade. "I never asked you something," he said, handing her a cup. "That night, you could have just let me take your money and leave. Why did you offer me food instead?" Jessica considered this, watching her children chase fireflies at the edge of the gathering. "Because I recognized something in you," she finally said. "The same desperation I felt when my ex-husband left. The feeling that you'd do anything to survive one more day." "But you didn't break into someone's house," Ryan pointed out. "No," Jessica agreed. "But who knows what any of us might do at our lowest point. The difference is whether we find a way back from that place, and whether someone offers us a hand when we're ready to take it." As the community continued to strengthen, Jessica eventually shared her full story at a neighborhood watch meeting, explaining how an act of compassion had transformed not just one life but many. The program expanded to include outreach to the homeless shelter and job placement assistance at the community center. What had begun as a night of terror had blossomed into a movement of connection. 2 years after that frightening night, Jessica stood before a crowd at the community center's annual fundraiser, sharing her experience as the keynote speaker. "We often think courage means facing danger without fear," she told the audience. "But true courage is feeling that fear fully, and then choosing compassion anyway." In the back of the room, Ryan stood with his mother and sister, now a respected member of the community and a mentor to other young people struggling to find their path. Their eyes met across the room, a silent acknowledgement of how far they had both come from that kitchen confrontation at 2 a.m. Life had not become perfect. Jessica still struggled with bills sometimes. Single parenthood remained challenging. But she had discovered a strength within herself that no intruder could ever take away, the power to transform fear into purpose, threat into opportunity, and a moment of danger into a lifetime of meaning. If this story touched your heart, remember that we all face moments of darkness when we must choose who we will become. Sometimes our greatest challenges reveal our deepest strength. Like and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the extraordinary courage hiding within ordinary lives, waiting for the moment when we need it most.